This is the 2023 Volvo XC90 Recharge. Today we're going to check out all the features, take it for a drive, and then put its off-road mode to the test. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. Volvo is quickly moving towards electrification. But of course, electrification does not mean that they're going with battery electrics only. Fact is, they are putting hybrids across the lineup. What we have here is actually the top dog of the hybrid powertrains. This is the XC90 Recharge with the T8 plug-in electric hybrid system. This version features an extended range battery for up to 33 miles of motoring without petrol. And if you run out of battery, it operates like a normal hybrid vehicle, relying on the 2-liter turbo engine as the main propulsion. Fact is, a plug-in electric hybrid really is the best of both worlds. It's also the most powerful XC90 you can buy, with a combined peak output of 455 horsepower and 523 pound-feet of torque. The transmission is a standard 8-speed automatic, which you can control with a very fancy crystal knob. The model we're testing today features the Ultimate package with wood blend and wood inlaid surfaces, Bowers & Wilkins premium sound, heated seats and steering wheel, a 9-inch touchscreen display featuring Google navigation and voice commands, a 12-inch digital dash, 4-corner air suspension, and 21-inch wheels wrapped in Pirelli Scorpion Verde all-season radials. In terms of safety, Volvo loaded this with auto LED headlights, blind spot ID system, cross traffic and rear alerts with auto braking, collision mitigation that looks out for vehicles, people, and animals, as well as run-off road mitigation. Further, it has anti-whiplash protection in the front seats, a surround view camera system, and all the airbags you'll ever need. Price as it sits here with options, $85,495 US, including destination. In the back, it does include a level 1 charging cable. That way you can charge this at home. The neat thing about plug-in electric hybrids is that you can actually operate them without using a drop of gasoline, because it has up to 33 miles of range in battery-only mode, which you can charge at home. It only takes about 12 hours on a level 1 charger, maybe 6 to 7 hours on a level 2. That has to be the biggest opening I've ever seen on a crossover. It's certainly easy to get to the engine. Time to take this for a drive. Now, the first thing I want to comment on in this vehicle is I do like the interior. These wool seats with all their adjustments, the sparse interior that is very well crafted. You have the contrast stitching up here, you have the natural wood grain here, and then you just have a real simple set of controls here. Now they do integrate a lot of stuff in this little 9-inch display, everything from aircon to navigation, and it really leans heavy into the Google universe. You have Google Maps, Google Assistants, you have the Play Store. It's simply because this is based on the Google OS Android, but that does not mean that you cannot use Apple CarPlay. Quite easy, in fact. Just plug in and away you go. No wireless CarPlay though, which is a little bit of a disappointment at this price point. Okay, well, let's go ahead and head out and see how this thing drives. Now, there's a couple things to look at. First, we have to look at the settings driving. Going into here lets us pick our drive mode, and there are multiple: hybrid, power, pure, off-road, and constant all-wheel drive. And I like that they do describe what each one does. I also like that you can pick an option to always start the drive mode pure, which pure is the full EV. It'll use the EV motor, EV battery, and not turn on the gas motor at all. In fact, we're going to start out in that way. Further, if I want to preserve my battery for later, say I'm going to go to a place where I really want to be creeping around quietly for some reason, I can basically put the battery on hold. I can also put it on charge so that it's really aggressive with braking and all that kind of stuff to be able to recharge that system. In fact, I find that hold will actually replenish the battery slightly. Driving for about 30 minutes will add about 1 mile onto the battery, which is neat. Okay, so let's start off this adventure in pure mode and see how that is. Put in the drive. Ooh, and we're just gonna slowly creep away. So quiet. Now I'm adding more throttle, but I'm still in battery mode only. There's no gas motor yet. This is really great, because if your commute is, say, 13 miles, you can get there and back again and have a few miles left over. Now, as far as acceleration in pure EV mode, I'm full throttle right here, and it's a little slow, to be honest, but totally fine for day to day. I mean, if your goal is just to get from point A to point B and you want to be the most efficient as you can about it, this is definitely a good option. And for somebody who, is kind of like, well, I want an EV, but I'm not, I need the range and I can't own like 4 vehicles or 3 vehicles or even 2 vehicles, then yeah, a plug-in electric hybrid is a great option. It really does give you the best of both worlds. The biggest downside is cost. This vehicle is not cheap, but it does provide true dual personalities. So right now I am in electric mode only. I've driven a couple miles and I've lost a couple miles on my gauge cluster down here. We started off with 26 miles of range out of the available 33, and it is of course slowly going down. This is great. All electric, fantastic. I could drive from here to work and back again, plug in overnight, and do the same thing every single day. And then on the weekend, if I want to go up to the mountains, I put it into hybrid mode and I just drive using gas and electric. It's really, really a great setup. But how fast is it when you start to not go just EV, but you also add in the full hybrid system? Let's find out. I'm just going to floor it and see what happens. I'm in power mode. 3, 2, 1, and go. Whoa! And 65.11 seconds. Wow, that is quick. Yep, driving in power mode is a totally different experience. Yeah, EV is fine for getting around town, but if you want to, this thing, it has the power of a sports car. Sounds good too. There's that little bit of rumble in the background, but not so much that you forget that this is a Volvo. More than 500 pound-feet of torque in a Volvo. Who would have thought? That's nuts. So the all-wheel drive system here is obviously oriented for safety. This is not an aggressive rear bias setup at all. It is a front bias system. However, the handling is actually pretty good, all things considered, and it has to be, considering how much torque this thing puts down. I've floored out of the corner. I can definitely feel like it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, like there is power going on back there, and I really appreciate that. Some of these vehicles, they say they're all-wheel drive, but when you have just buckets of torque, when you add throttle, you just feel those front wheels scampering, but not here. It feels like a balanced acceleration experience, which is what you want. So this does have the optional air suspension, and I think it does a really good job of soaking up irregularities without making the vehicle overly soft. It's a fantastic balance of comfort and performance. And of course, it does modify depending on what kind of drive mode you're in. Right now we're in power mode, which is the most rigid setup, and it is great. I like this setting. If I go into hybrid mode, it's going to be, soften it up just a little bit. This is all about efficiency and comfort. Now there's another mode here, constant all-wheel drive. Already in power mode, I find that it puts, a sufficient amount of power to the back, but constant all-wheel drive puts even more power to the back all the time. It's not going to be shifting front to back quite so much. It's more like a 4-wheel drive lock mode to give you just that little bit of extra punch in the back. Of course, you have a lot of different safety things integrated into this vehicle. You have adaptive cruise control, which we can turn on by hitting a button over here. So right now it'll pace the vehicle in front of us. My foot is not on the brake, it's not on the gas. I'm going to see if this FedEx truck comes to a complete stop. And if we do too, not a complete stop, but you can see it really does a good job of maintaining pace between me and the vehicle in front of me. Now this road is way too windy, so it's not going to do lane detection here because there's very little markings on the lanes and it's a very windy road. But if I was on the highway, then it would have lane marking and keep me centered also. It's a good system. I've used it. No complaints here. You can hear that electric motor kind of go. Dang, this thing hauls. It hauls. The head unit here has Google Maps built in. It's a full Android operating system, so it has all the Google bits, including Google Assistant and the Google Play Store. Let me just show you how voice commands work here. Find the nearest coffee shop.
All right, there's Greenwood Coffee Company 5 miles away. Want to navigate there?
Yes. It gave me a suggestion on an island with no bridge. Great. Oh no, wait, that island does have a bridge. It's as close as possible to me, but it also is like an extra 40 minutes to go around the peninsula. So that is a ridiculous option. Oh, why can't you be a little bit smarter? Oh, well. So the issue that I was looking at there is that the navigation, because I'm out on a peninsula, it was giving me the closest location as the crow flies. The problem is that as a crow flies is 5 minutes, but in reality, the roads, it'll take me 40 to 50 minutes to get there because there's a big body of water in the way. So not very smart, but it is, you know, it has all the data points that you would need, and it is very good at picking up my voice with various instructions. Set cabin temperature to 67 degrees.
All right, changing the temperature to 68 degrees.
And it did it right there. So that works. Although it was a little funny that it said to change it to 68. I told it to say 67. It showed me 67, but then it kept it at 68. Set my temperature to 64 degrees.
Got it. Changing the temperature for the driver to 64 degrees.
Driver is now changed to 64. So this setup works pretty good. It's very quick, very responsive system. I actually like it. It's a nice one. The seats are very comfortable. I've been sitting them in a bunch last couple days, and they actually hold my body in position really nicely. I like this wool surface. Now when you buy this, you can get it either with premium leather or you can get it with this wool. I like the wool. The only downside is if you option the wool, you don't get seat ventilators, which is kind of funny. You actually get less features if you option the wool, whereas if you get the leather, you get the seat ventilation. Just something to keep in mind. If you want seat coolers, you got to get the leather. Of course, I think with leather, it's also more important because that leather can be hot sometimes. Oh, and I'm sure you're going to ask MPGs. The sticker that they put on this vehicle, the MPGs are a little wonky. It's an MPG-E rating, which nobody really knows what that does. In real world, in full hybrid mode, I'm getting about 30, 31 MPGs, which for a vehicle that has more than 500 pound-feet of torque and 3 rows, I'd say that's pretty good. No complaints. In terms of handling, I think my biggest complaint is actually the steering wheel. It just kind of has a vague input. You can't really feel what the front wheels are doing all that much. But in terms of dynamics of left to right shift, and then obviously power, I think this vehicle drives really great. But I am finding some inconsistencies with it. The brakes, they vary quite a lot between the different drive modes, and it's a little bit weird when you switch from one mode to another. And like, for example, if I go to, well, first off, why bury driving dynamics so deep in the menu? I have to click twice. Just let me click once. So I'm in hybrid mode right now. If I go to charge mode, obviously that's going to be, oh yeah, they bite almost. It's very lurchy. It's almost impossible to drive this thing smooth in charge mode. So just be aware of that you're not going to really want to drive in charge mode a lot. You only do that if you really need to charge up those hybrid batteries for all electric driving. I do want to note that if you are driving this as a normal hybrid, you can just have it in normal hybrid and auto. And even if the battery is completely depleted, it will charge it enough automatically that you're always going to have hybrid vehicle usage, just like a normal hybrid. You don't have to charge it to use the battery. It's going to use the battery. It just can't fill up the battery. I hope that makes sense. Okay, covered all the basics of driving this on the road. Now let's see how well this system works off-road, because yes, it has an off-road mode. Now it may not have off-road tires or even off-road wheels, because these are 21s, but it has an off-road mode in the system. So I want to see just how well that works. And of course, we have our own private test course here. We have a couple of them. We're going to use the Peninsula course today because it is designed more for crossovers, whereas our Eastern Washington course, it's more hardcore for purpose-built vehicles. So this is our course that we call Chicken Run. It contains my chicken coop, and there will be chickens on the course. We will avoid them, of course. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is put the vehicle into off-road mode. You will note it's actually raising the vehicle up slightly thanks to the air suspension, which will increase our ride height. I couldn't actually find anywhere what the ride height is, but we've definitely increased at least an inch, and the default ride height is slightly above 8 inches, so we should be pretty good to go on this. I don't think we're going to have any clearance issues. Go ahead and hit go. We're in drive. I really have nothing else. I'm going to keep battery usage in auto. Off-road. Okay, let's go. So this is, of course, the easy course. If we pass this, then we have a more challenging course right over there. But first, we have to see how this thing does. Ooh, it's a little bit of a lift there. Now, of course, things we're looking for are wheel braking and articulation. Wheel braking is the ability for the system to stop a wheel from spinning. It'll use brakes, and then that'll push power back into the system. Oh yeah, also we do have a surround view camera system, which is pretty neat. Can I change it to a front view though? I want a front view. Give me a front view. Oh, it's a little slow to respond. Oh, there we go, front view. Perfect, that's exactly what I want. So let's get lined up. You can really see those rises there. That's pretty cool. Obviously, this isn't a purpose-built off-roader, and you're not going to really like go wheeling with it. But sometimes if you're going up to a cabin or going skiing, you are going to run into traction issues. This replicates some of those traction issues, which you might find in the real world. I do like that I can see my steering angle when I'm off center here. Although it kind of goes away. Why did it just go away? Keep this in drive. So at this point, we're going to be climbing up the mount over there, which is really going to lift traction off one of the wheels. Can we reach down with those other wheels? And are we going to grind? Ooh, no grinding. That's nice. Now we're going to lift up that back driver's side wheel, which is going to spin free, or maybe it's going to clamp down. I don't know. What is it doing on the outside? Ooh, we're sliding. These tires are not great. Oop. Yeah, that's a little lateral slide there. That's not good. Okay, let's get out. I'm on a post. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it just ate it. It just absolutely destroyed my my course. That's why we built the course, though. It's a safe course to test these things out on. Let's just try to drive out of here now. Man, all season radials, not great for off-road. It absolutely squished my hill on the left. Let's just try to drive out of here now. Come on, how's that power shifting? Okay, there we go. Oh man, that was way harder than I thought it was gonna be. Okay. Right. Should we do the next test? Yeah, let's do the next test. So it was able to get through our chicken run course. Can't really say no problem, but it was able to get through it. So now let's go ahead and take this onto our logging run. The log run is basically a logging road designed to look like some of the worst logging roads that we've encountered here in the Pacific Northwest. We even built it using the same materials. So this will be interesting. These tires are obviously a very poor choice for these type of conditions. So if you want, if it makes you feel better, just think of it as covered in ice, a super slippery uphill condition. Whoa, this thing is starting to feel pretty big now that I got to wind through the trees here. Yikes. Let's not dent the panels. Manufacturers hate it when we do that. Okay, line this up. Like I said, this course is designed to emulate logging roads in the Pacific Northwest. But this is a particularly bad logging road that hasn't been maintained very well on purpose. We have a couple boulders that we're going to have to thread around. And then right at the very top, there's a deep ditch on the left and a rock on the right, which creates a slippery condition on the right and no traction on the left. So it's going to really test this vehicle's ability to put power down, specifically power down to the rear. Now, if we have trouble getting through here, there is a plan B that is easier, but I consider that a fail. That is a success. Nice thing is that it's actually a little dry out. Now, if we get past the rocks, the ground, as you saw in that last course, is a little bit moist because it has been raining pretty much nonstop for the last month here. But we finally have a day of clearing and drying. So hopefully we can maintain that traction. Now we're still in off-road mode, which gives us maximum ride height, which is good. We're gonna have some roots we have to worry about here that are really gonna test the ability of this vehicle to put traction down, and shimmying to the right is not what I want to happen. Gotta be really smooth with the throttle. Now this is a standard automatic, and it actually is doing a pretty good job. The throttle is very subtle here in off-road mode. I want to make sure I'm not going to slide to the right. Ooh, that's actually pretty good. It's doing a pretty good job. Keeping a foot over each pedal to kind of be able to control power as it goes down. I'm going to go to the left a little bit here because I want to try to get that wheel on the rocks. And I'm trying not to scratch the wheels because, of course, nobody wants to do that. This is where it gets tricky. This vehicle has no underbody protection to speak of, so we have to be really careful charging things, because if you go too fast, you're going to set down on top of another hard object, possibly break things. So can we get over this? This is the tricky part. Can it shift that power around to get over this rock? I'm just keeping the throttle in, letting the system work itself out. It can't. It's not making any progress. Now I can steer it. Can we get this way? No, usually I start sawing the front wheels when I actually feel like we're making progress, and we're just not making progress here. So now we're gonna exit via the plan B and try not to slam into that tree behind us. So obviously wheel braking, not as good as I would like on this vehicle. I feel like if it could just transfer that power, it would be way more effective in challenging conditions. But, you know, this is a Volvo. That's probably not who they're going after in terms of buyers. If you want a vehicle that has a really good ride, has all-wheel drive, is very safe, is super fun to drive, but also allows you to do your daily commute during the week in pure electric mode, this is a great vehicle. It really is a two-in-one type of vehicle. You have your economy commuter car, and then you also have a family vehicle with 3 rows, and a lot of power for the weekend. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you, and I hope you enjoy them.